Think the most successful predator to ever hunt humans left behind exactly zero evidence of its crimes. No bite marks. No drag trails. No shattered femurs with tooth grooves preserved in stone. For decades, paleoanthropologists mapped the violence of the Pliocene through bone damage. Every puncture, every fracture, every groove told a story of what killed what. It was the forensic grammar of deep time. And it worked. Until it did not. Because the grammar has a flaw. It assumes the predator leaves something behind. In 2012, a team led by Christopher Brochu reconstructed a skull pulled from sediments near the shores of Lake Turkana. The measurement that came back broke a threshold no living crocodilian reaches. 8.2 meters. 27 feet of scaled, armored architecture exceeding the largest verified saltwater crocodile by over 2 meters. That number changed everything. Because once a crocodilian crosses this length, the physics of predation shift. A 60-kilogram primate, the approximate mass of your direct ancestor, Homo habilis, is no longer something to be bitten. It is something to be swallowed. Whole. Bone, marrow, sinew, skull. The stomach acid finishes what the jaw begins. Nothing remains. Nothing fossilizes. The absence of evidence is not proof of safety. It is proof of total consumption. So here is the question that should unsettle you. If there are no bite marks on the bones of our ancestors from this period, how did we prove this animal was eating us? Hold that thought. To understand the scale of what occupied that water, consider this. In terms of the size differential, a Homo habilis, 4 feet tall, standing on the banks of a lake, you need to drink from, are to this animal what a French bulldog is to a modern saltwater crocodile. Not a threat. Not even prey in a meaningful sense. A snack that does not require chewing. But what made this animal impossible was not its length. It was what was happening inside the skull. You have heard 8.2 meters. Now absorb 2.5 tons. Heavier than a modern hippopotamus. Heavier than a loaded Ford F-150. 2.5 tons of low-profile, armored momentum moving through water without breaking the surface tension. A biological swimming tank optimized across 20 million years for the ambush of large terrestrial vertebrates approaching the shoreline. The jaw musculature operates as an industrial hydraulic shear, a bone vaporizing piston capable of generating compressive forces that reduce primate skeletal structures to calcium silt. The skull is not a head. It is a chassis. The teeth are not cutting instruments, they are grip points. Locking mechanisms for a body engineered to roll, submerge, and process prey through torque rather than incision. It does not chew. It dismantles. And the entire machine is sheathed in osteoderms, subdermal ballistic plating. Bony deposits fused into the dermis, interlocking like ceramic armor tiles on the hull of an armored vehicle. Not decorative. Structural. Load-bearing. This organism carries its own fortification. Offense and defense welded into a single weapons platform that predates the existence of grasslands, of apes, of anything resembling a human thought. But 2.5 tons of armored momentum is the delivery system. The real weapon operates on a frequency you cannot hear and in a spectrum you cannot see. You are a thirsty Homo habilis. You approach the lake at dusk. You scan the water. You see nothing. You hear nothing. You feel safe. The animal 15 feet from your ankles has been tracking you since you crested the ridge 200 meters back. Its eyes sit flush with the waterline, split-level optics that detect the silhouette of a primate against shimmering surface light. A forward-looking infrared targeting system, passive acquisition of thermal contrast against the equatorial sky. You are backlit by a dying sun. To this animal, you are glowing. Its snout is studded with integumentary sense organs, pressure-calibrated receptors so precise they register the ripple displacement of a single footstep breaking the surface film. The lake floor is not geology. It is a seismic tripwire network, and every step you take toward the water writes your coordinates into a sensory map older than your entire genus. You just announced yourself. Lake Turkana, the Jade Sea, stretches 250 kilometers through the East African Rift. Pull back far enough and the truth becomes visible from orbit. Every cubic meter of that water carries data. Every tremor in the sediment propagates at speeds your nervous system cannot outrun. This is not a body of water. It is a surveillance platform the size of a small nation, and for millions of years, one organism held root access to the entire grid. It communicates in infrasound frequencies below the floor of human perception. You cannot hear its approach. But you can feel it. A pressure in your chest you mistake for your own fear. It is not fear. It is the physical vibration of a 2.5-ton body displacing water at a distance of 50 yards, conducted through mud, calcium sediment, and the bones of your own feet. By the time you register that pressure, the targeting sequence is complete. Go inside the skull. The pterygoideus muscles, crimson engine blocks anchored to bone with attachment surfaces the width of dinner plates. These are not muscles in any way you understand. They are the hydraulic core of the system. When they fire, the jaw does not close. It executes. Force concentrates through conical teeth into a contact area the width of a human torso. No mammalian ribcage maintains structural integrity under this compression. No primate spine holds its geometry. Here is the answer to the question you have been carrying since the beginning. Why are there no bite marks on the bones of our ancestors from this period? Because once a crocodilian reaches this size, 8.2 meters, 2.5 tons, the prey item is too small to require processing. A 60-kilogram Homo habilis is not a meal to be worked. It is an object to be swallowed. The bones, the flesh, the marrow, everything enters the stomach intact. The hydrochloric bath that waits, a corrosive reactor operating at a pH low enough to liquefy calcium, finishes what the jaw began. There is nothing left to find. Nothing left to study. Nothing left to mourn. The absence of evidence is the evidence. Paleontologists gave it a name. Crocodylus anthropophagus. It translates from the Greek. It means human eater. Feel the pressure first. Not Euthecodon, the long-snout fish-eater, looked terrifying but lacked the cranial architecture for primate predation. Its jaws were narrow, built for lateral sweeps through schools of cichlids. Impressive and irrelevant. The human eater was not an accident of scale. It was a specialization. It survived everything the planet threw at it for over 20 million years. And then it was killed by its own success. A 2.5-ton body demands a caloric throughput that the shrinking Pleistocene lakes could no longer deliver. The engine outgrew the fuel supply. The machine starved. The fossil record preserves one statistical anomaly of pure prehistoric spite. One Homo habilis individual whose leg was severed by a crocodile only to be killed by a large cat in the same event. 2 apex predators. 1 primate. 0 chance. This is not a story of survival. This is taphonomic proof that our ancestors lived inside a kill zone with no exit. The crocodile disappeared 1.8 million years ago. We survived. We built tools, then cities, then narratives. And the narrative we built was this: we are the apex. But the fossil record tells a different story, if you know how to read what is not there. We tell ourselves we are the masters of this planet because we are the ones still standing. But survival is not mastery. Survival is what happens to the organisms that the most efficient predators did not bother to finish. We are not the protagonists of this story. We are the fraction, the remnant too scattered, too far from the water's edge for the great machines to erase from the geological record. And here is the final insult. The horned crocodile, Crocodylus thorjarnarsoni, evolved squamosal horns. Raised bony projections behind the eye sockets, the devil's crown of the Pleistocene. Not for hunting. Not for defense against prey. For territory wars with other crocodiles. Ego manifesting in bone. The most terrifying human predator in the fossil record did not evolve its most dramatic feature for us. We were not the challenge this animal was built to answer. We were the incidental calorie it consumed on the way to the real fight. Remember the French Bulldog. We used it to describe the size difference between your ancestor and this organism. But the analogy runs deeper than mass. A French bulldog does not know it is a snack. It cannot comprehend the crocodile, not because the crocodile is hidden, but because the crocodile exists outside the bulldog's frame of reality. The predator is too large, too old, too alien to register as a category of threat. The bulldog's brain lacks the architecture to perceive the danger it occupies. We are the bulldog. Not because we are small. Because our perception has borders we cannot see from the inside. We rid the fossil record and find no bite marks and conclude safety. We survey the Pleistocene and find no evidence of predation and conclude dominance. We mistake the absence of data for the presence of control. And the organism that proved the most efficient killers leave the cleanest crime scenes dissolved into the sediment of a shrinking lake 2 million years before we learn to write its name. If a predator is successful enough to leave no trace of its prey, how many other human eaters are missing from our history?